Everybody, welcome back to State of Scrims. I'm joined by Brewer as always, and actually Apari is here. Got denied the MVP interview, unfortunately, because it was a no cash stream. Super glad that we got to watch that live though. That was an absolute banger, and there were a ton of people
Yeah.
tuned in to watch SKT finally get the dub they deserve. And as the sole member of I think that roster that had been playing the entire time, how do you feel? This is a huge accomplishment for you.
I'm really happy. I have fought like you do not know what I have gone through. You do not know what I've had to sacrifice to get through all this time playing, improving, getting knocked back down into the dirt only to claw my way back up. It has been an experience to say the least.
Well, I guess none of the people that you actually got to play with had been on the team from the beginning. If there was any one player that you feel like had the most impact on the team overall that had been on the team for like the last couple seasons that didn't get to play today that you'd like to see in your next win, who would that be?
I'd either have to give that to Honan or Sam S. Like very very solid players, very I don't know. I feel like when you think SKT, those are like some of the names that like immediately spring to your mind.
For sure. Okay, so I feel like everyone's going to want to talk about the match versus Inferno that you guys almost had like a bunch of times. How
Yeah.
hard was it to bounce back from that series and come into this one? Like, especially you get the first win against QC, and I feel like a bunch of us watching are like, we've seen this before. Are they going to be able to close it out? Was that affecting your mind at all, or were you guys pretty confident going into that game too?
Albert's Inferno, I mean, we lost, we came close. I wasn't really that upset about that game. Like, I mean, like we could have played it a bit better in a few spots, maybe like drafted it a bit better. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we were still kind of like warming up to each other at that point, but I mean like I feel like if the SKT that played last time played Alberts again, 2-0.
Fair enough. I mean, you were super close to getting a 2-0 anyway, so
Yeah.
I don't think
They
that's
were.
that's that big of a
Not
statement
that
to make
crazy.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think QC has caught everyone by surprise. I think starting the season off 0-4, you could say
Yeah.
no Drakkar, no Rat for the first couple games, or like I think for games 2 and 3. Could be an issue for some people. I think those rosters are still pretty strong. I don't think they should be dropping every single
I
series, but we saw them with their full roster against both Rift Sharks and Metabusters, who I think a lot of people had them favored to beat. Was that anything that played into your mind? Were you intimidated by the team at all, or do you think the 0-2 series or the 0-2 record they had coming into that series kind of wore that off?
I wasn't afraid of them.
Yeah, fair enough.
I
Brewer, I
was
do want
not.
your thoughts on them being 0-4 though, because I think that's super fascinating, and definitely not
I
what anyone would expect, especially coming off the Frostbite win.
I mean, I didn't see it coming. If you recall, when we did our power rankings, I put them first pretty firmly. So I was wrong. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think some of it's what you said, Dean. Like you have a couple. I think there's one series where Jakar didn't play, two series where Rat didn't play. But as you said, I still think the roster is pretty strong overall. Why are they losing? I mean, some of the games have been close, some of them not as close. To me, I don't know. I don't want to say it's like unlucky. I mean, I think they had some tough ones too, but I think the side pieces aren't playing as well as they had last year
Mm-hmm.
or last season. I think I think what's being realized right now is how much Chow, Kage, and Paul, as kind of the three starters, were contributing last season. And while I think everybody knows Rat and Drakkar are like the carries, the big names, the ones getting the accolades. Those guys were consistent and setting the other guys up. Like I think Chow was such a rock in the top lane for them that you were never really able to punish him. I don't think Xavier's been that same way. You've been able to win through top this season as Korn just did against them the other night. I think they're missing Paul's consistency in part because of his champion pool. I think his
Yeah.
champion pool and support was just such an enabler for when you have strong carries with things like the Taric. And he was a really good Braum player. So I think you're just kind of missing all of that. And I don't know. I'm not going to be shocked if they don't win out, sneak into playoffs, and then do really well. I still think the team has a lot of potential, but it's shocking they haven't won a series yet, and they're kind of at the point now where it's almost must win every single series on your way out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could see them getting in with a 3-5 record or maybe a 2-6, but if you end up in that 1-7 or 0-8 slot, obviously, I think it's going to be really hard to get in. 0-8's nail in the coffin, guarantees that another team does have the win. Pari, what's your take? I feel like you played against them the most recently out of the three of us. All three of us are on the teams that actually beat them, which is a coincidence. But were there any strong points that you saw that maybe they've been improving on since the first two series, or do you think they just gotta improve everywhere?
I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely feel like, like the players are there, right? Like, I definitely feel like they don't, like, all right, the players that they had that we versed against, that was pretty good. However, I will say their draft phase might need a little bit of work because the first draft, kind of reminds me of a child's book that I used to read. It's called Horton Herta, Who the Fuck Do You Think You Are? You know?
Oh.
And
I heard that.
Yeah, no.
I read that one.
What do you mean by that?
Like, what do you mean you're gonna leave open Viego and Kane against me? Come on, man. The disrespect is crazy. Like,
yeah, I mean, I would also argue that, like, I think people are very fairly afraid of Tuxedo and Ray. They're newcomers, and I feel like a lot of the chatter has been to ban out the Aatrox and Mbessa, as well as I think Rakan and Alistar all look. So I think it's a bit tough. They at least had a strategy and stuck to it, and I mean, the Kane ended up not coming through at all, so I guess they didn't have to ban that. But
I mean, there's a lot of mind games you can play with that, though.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping we'd see the Kane just because it usually is permaban, but I understand why you went for something else in that spot. But I'm still hoping we get to see that at some point.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
I'm going to pause the conversation real quick. I need to call out Brewer for being a flake. We said that we would prepare our sandwiches.
Why you gotta approach it like this, dude?
I created my Elvis, as we said. Brewer forgot to go grocery shopping. He will be posting a picture of his BLT in the next couple days in the Scrim Zone chat.
I will.
He's a man of his word.
I was traveling this weekend. It's okay. We forgot.
So was I. I almost forgot. The reason that we were late is because I went to the grocery store right before the episode. But
fair enough.
Anyway,
but no, it's like
we do have another excellent round of sandwiches to get through, but I didn't want to wait to eat any more, and I wanted to introduce it. So Brewer, take it off.
Oh, sorry. Not even just me though. It's like I also noticed they didn't ban out Lilia when they went against Fish, and like that's just a cardinal sin. Like I think I don't know. There might be a little bit of overconfidence here into like in areas where I just don't think you need to be overconfident. Where I think you can just ban those out, you know? Because like I feel like that's just a no-brainer, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing to how much they're flexing rolls around. I think that's something you can do when you're really far ahead and you just kind of want to cause some mental damage to the other team, make it hard to draft against. But when you're off-rolling people a bunch and you're not necessarily doing very well with the off-rolls, comparatively, I do think that's where you suffer. I don't think Game 2 versus SKT is a good example of them struggling in an off-roll, but I think a lot of the games where they have played, you've seen a dip in performance.
Yeah, Dean, I think our series was kind of a question mark there. They played like different roles all three games, and they came in with a pretty dominant game one. I mean, we had some good stuff, but overall, they had a pretty clean game one and beat us. And then you come into game two, and they get a little crazy. You now send Drakar's now going bot instead of top. They're picking Karthus bot lane with a bunch of random champs, and didn't go that well. And then go into game three, and now Drakar's playing jungle, which was his primary role. And so I don't know. That was shocking to me. I feel like you're switching a little too much, especially when you find a win. I feel like it's one thing to switch after a loss when you've just had a really pretty solid game one. I was surprised they switched in that position, but
yeah, no. I mean, like look, I'm not one to criticize how another team operates, but it's just like I don't know. I don't think playing musical chairs with your roles is really great, at least in my opinion.
I mean, we saw some role swapping coming out last season, but it was usually only when certain power picks were left up, and it was only Rat and Drakar swapping, so you allow the other three people to stay on the same role. Whereas here it feels like they're putting everyone everywhere, which is just super tough to practice because you basically need to be playing League 24/7 to be able to maintain like equal strength on every role. And especially with vacations being had, like Drakar was absent for a game, Rat was absent for a game, I think it's just hard for everyone to maintain the level of practice that they need to. I
mean, it is what it is. Yeah, no, I mean, overall, like, I mean, like, all this to say, like they are by no means like slouches, right? Like I don't know, like I don't think that like despite the rough start to the season, I think that they could definitely make a pretty strong comeback.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would not want to face them still. I think every team's kind of shown to be a tough out this season. I think some of the teams that people were maybe projecting to be maybe the lower or the bottom, easier potential games. I mean, I think in the preseason when we were doing the power rankings was SKT, was Albert's Inferno, and I think both of those teams, Albert Inferno sitting at 2-0, and SKT with a what's it 1-2 record, easily could have been 2-1. I think both those teams have shocked a lot of people, so there really is no easy matchup right now.
Yeah, and you took one step ahead of me, Brewer. I have pulled up Rift Sharks versus Project Tuesdays, and I think that is another team that people were way too low on. They've now started off the season, I think 3-0 at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, PT's
Don't think
doing
anyone
solid.
was predicting that. I think a lot of teams might have thought that they were going to be one of the stronger ones, but 3-0 start was definitely unexpected. I think there's a lot that could be said about our team's performance versus that series, and obviously we ran a different roster than we had previously, but they definitely showed up. I think LSD Dreams had a super good performance into Giraffe, which I think is one, like, I think people have been holding Giraffe and or Sandy as one of the best mids in the league right now. So seeing LSD Dreams actually get to go up against him, where I feel like LSD Dreams matchups have been lower on the tier list in some people's minds, I think that's a huge test for them. And Yug and Fatal just had an absolutely outstanding series. They really caught us off guard with the Malphite Varus bot lane. And, I think that...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. Brewer's still my mid lane goat, holding that one solid.
I appreciate that, but PT as a whole has been very, very impressive to me. I mean, I was taking note of their bot lane all the way back in the preseason, the Frostbite tournament. I thought that LSD Dreams showed some really good games in that. Was it Bilgewater or something not that long ago? Spiral's roster did really well. So, I mean, I'm not shocked to see them doing this well. They're looking really tough. I mean, they've only lost, I believe, one game so far this season. They're undefeated in series, 3-0.
Or no, not SKT. I'm tripping.
Yeah, I don't think they've played SKT yet. And they've lost
that was
one.
Their week one matchup.
No, Project Tuesdays has played us.
Yeah.
Oh, did they? Oh, okay.
I just forgot.
Well,
which
they've lost
team they got
one
played against.
game. All that to say, they're looking really great. What do you guys think? If anything, has there even been a weakness shown? I mean, you lose one game, but to me, they're looking pretty solid across the board.
Okay. My read on Project Tuesdays is I don't think that they really have one specific standout. I think they're just solid across the board, and that's kind of like where their strength is. They don't really over-index into one role or another. At least that's my read.
Yeah, I think if anything, the one weakness I would point out to them is like Dave's first 17 minutes of the game. But then after that, he just team fights like a god. So it like kind of feels like you can punish him and it doesn't matter. But versus Nerd Nutbusters, you saw it matter because Blake was able to get a lead and end up winning the game that way. And I think I got ahead on the Gwen, but Gwen was just not going to solo win us that game. And I feel like you need to be able to find a lead against another lane. But their macro is fantastic. I feel like it kind of feels like playing against like prime meta busters when I'm against them, where it's like you think you have a good play in a rotation and you beat them, but then like 18 of them are there and you just like are struggling to figure out how that happened. So those two teams kind of feel similar to me, although we were able to beat meta busters and not Project Tuesdays, so maybe they're doing it even better. But I think maybe having a carry top and getting an advantage there, I think would be the way to beat Project Tuesdays. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see Tuxedo play into them when SKT played them. I think he would be one of the people who'd be able to get it, but maybe Canuck on Inferno would be able to do it, especially with his performances against SKT, kind of validating that. But I'm really excited to see Inferno's game coming up here because they've only played 2, I believe. So
yeah, they're sitting at 2-0 right now, and I think Inferno's looked really good. Canuck has been kind of a standout to me from their team so far this season. He's been very, very impressive in top lane.
INF is... I mean, yeah, Canuck's pretty good. I don't know. Like, I don't know. INF's one of those teams that I'm just not 100% sure how to feel about.
yeah, I mean, I think we should just move forward and see Albert's Inferno versus 1T. Gruer, I think you're probably the one who's going to have the most thoughts on this series, is the one who got to play in it. You were able to get the first win with 13 kills on the Syndra. Very good performance, and then kind of fell off from there. I think we saw an uncharacteristically high number of deaths on you in the Vladimir game, but I feel like the third game is kind of how all the 1T games have looked, where you and Sarv have like insane score lines, but then you still end up losing. So I guess just walk us through your experience in that series.
Game one, pretty smooth. I think we got a lot of champions we're comfortable on and played pretty well. I thought Bean had a really nice game on the Blitzcrank. He put out a lot of pressure onto Omar. Noam as well. I thought the jungle support synergy for us in game one was just really strong, and not really anyone that could survive their combo except for the Mundo. I mean, Canuck had a good game all 3 games, to be honest. Game two, I didn't really like our draft in hindsight. Jonah got a pretty big advantage in lane phase, but unfortunately, you're playing against Gangplank, and he's kind of scaling. And I thought Albert and Omar played really good games. A lot of crowd control. Yeah, a lot of deaths that game for all kind of our squishy carries. I mean, 6 deaths, 6 deaths, 6 deaths, 5 deaths. Albert and Omar were doing a really nice job of layering CC. Brian and Jeremy are super solid. Game three, that's the one I'm a little disappointed we lost. I think we had a good angle. Frankly, the Volibear kind of ran through top and got to the point where no one could match him 1v1, and I think we still had angles, but Omar found a really nice shove onto Sarvers in the last fight, and Volibear got on top of him, and that was a game that was kind of on a knife's edge, and I think they just played it out a little bit better at the end. Overall, pretty close series.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys ended up having a rough one at the beginning of the season, and I think this one was super close, so I think maybe Inferno ending up a little higher than you guys in the standings might make sense, but I expect both of you to end up higher than projected, I guess. It's kind of tough to know. I think you guys have a lot of hard matchups left, so I think that should be pretty interesting going forward, but definitely good win for Inferno. I think this is probably one of the ones that's going to end up mattering if you two end up similar spots in the standings. Could even be a tiebreaker that ends up mattering head-to-head wise. Moving forward to SKT QC, we already discussed. But Snarkify versus New York Nutbusters, that was a rough one. I was watching the first game back to get it recorded for YouTube, and I was worried that I was going to have to take back everything I said about the other 1T game where you guys dropped him to only 1 kill. Blake ended up getting 4 on the Alawi and turned that back around, but not the performances you want to see from pretty much anyone else on that team. I think Blake did a good job, but as always, Kage did a super defensive top lane play. I mean, he had to get his flash blown a couple times, but it was almost always on Blake's flash. And playing Cho'Gath, you're not likely to die to a Pantheon and Alawi super quickly. And he ended up being deathless that game, as did Vitus, who ended up 11-0 on the Yunara. Since I was the one recording it, I did end up giving MVP to Sandy that game. I feel like he was super proactive on the map. He was showing up places where just no one was going to expect the mid laner to be, and just finding kills bot lane. It was able to accelerate the Yunara, and actually kind of was doing more jungling than Hanya was in the early game, which is surprising for a J4, but it kind of felt like they had Hanya doing all the objectives, and then Sandy was ganking on Victor, which is just, it was a wild game to watch. The second one was a lot closer. You saw just huge comfort across the board. We see Varus top for Blake, which I know he's been playing a lot of, and then Nunu J Sway across the board, just ultimately not enough, and Hanya pulling out the freaking Nefiri. Like, who was going to guess that was going to happen, and just wiped them. So, I mean, Clinic from Snarkify, New York Nutbusters looked a lot better in the second one, but I think this team's going to be super hard to beat.
Yeah, this was kind of the series where I thought Snarkify really kind of showed to their max potential, played really, really well across the board. It was kind of fun to see them kind of do a different roster because they brought in Eden to play support, and I thought Eden had a really nice series. It allowed them to be able to play Hanya, Sandy, and Vetus all together. I mean, that's just such a strong 3-core. So this is a team I think that has a lot of flexibility in role and roster, and they just looked really strong across the board here. Don't really have anything negative to say about them.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just one of those games where it's like, I don't even know if New York Nutbusters played bad necessarily. It's just the other team just played that much better. It's really tough.
I think I will say I think Nutbusters can play better than this. I think it can be closer. I mean, I wouldn't say this was their best series in the day. I thought Daniel played worse than I expected him, to be honest. Like I think he's shown a lot better games. And then just kind of across the board. Yeah. I think they could do a little better.
And then the last one, as you talked about, kind of just a win through top series. Zaber's scoreline across the series was 2-19. Corn's was 24-4. That speaks to a lot. The Gwen curse stays alive. I think it's like 5 losses, 2 wins on Gwen or something like that. And every single time the Gwen looks super far ahead, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. We did actually get to see the starting roster come back from QC, which I found interesting. But then they end up playing freaking Vayne mid, if this is correct. And I don't know. I feel like QC has more conventional picks that they can shine super hard on. And I don't know. Maybe that's his counterattack to the Zoe. I'm not quite sure how you feel about that matchup, Brewer. But
I mean, to be honest, I think nothing matters when Corn blasts Zaber that hard. Nothing else matters. I thought Jim was actually pretty strong early game on the Pantheon. I mean, you have your car on that. Might be the first loss on Zed. Like, has looked really good on that. It's a little nerfed now, but still looking good. And then I see what you're going for. You have the poke mage, you have the scaling mage, you have the scaling 80 carry. I thought Rat did fine in the game, but I mean, Corn just did Corn things. I mean, he got 2 of his best champs back-to-back games. I'm pretty sure Zaber actually got the first 2 kills in that lane. Like, kind of cheesed him early with Ignite on the Zinzao. Looked really strong at like a 2-0 lead. 19 deaths the rest of the series. Nothing else. Yeah. I mean, Corn just played as good as he can, which we've seen before. We don't see it every time, but when he shows up and he plays his best, I mean, he is a guy that can just straight up win you games.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see that Katarina and Kog'Maw come back for Tusini and stuff. It's not stuff that we've seen a ton of. I feel like maybe Tusini played Katarina earlier this season, but I might be hallucinating that. But I mean, honestly, like I think the Vayne Hui, I know the composition ends up looking good, but I think this is another one of those scenarios where you're ending up flexing something and it kind of feels like you've hit a point where it's just for the sake of flexing it. Like maybe Zoe has a really good matchup into Hui, but I feel like if you play the lane right on Hui, you should just be able to stand back far enough and be able to just scale safely. And I mean, I feel like you end up.
I think it's more the other matchup, Dean. I think it's more that Vayne would struggle a lot more into Caitlyn, where ideally the smaller lane, you can kind of farm a little easier on the Vayne into the Zoe, and Wei can just kind of not allow Caitlyn to do much because he's going to wave clear perma. But
I mean, I'm just wondering if you have a matchup that you can just kind of have one of your best players, supposedly on Rat, be able to just play safe and scale up and do a lot of damage on Hui. I feel like you're sacrificing that in order to give Alec like a little bit more room to breathe. But I mean, again, I guess you're right that the reenacting kind of negates everything. But
I think the Vayne too, because they needed an answer to Dr. Mundo. I think otherwise your draft is really going to struggle to kill the Dr. Mundo. So they felt kind of forced to give Rat they needed a champion. And I guess when they're going down the list, it's like who can play what. Vayne comes to mind, and but. I mean, Metabuster's just looking really strong. And I mean, also, shout out to Katarina. That was blind pick Katarina, by the way, too. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Just blind picking Katarina. Rat got the last pick there with the Victor. And I know why you do that. I think Victor 1v1 actually does do pretty well into Katarina. You can really bully her in the lane phase. And then you have the ultimate to cancel her ultimate. But I thought Fuzier did a nice job playing around his lanes. And once Tusini got going, he could just jump on him.
I don't know. Me personally, like just looking at this, I don't know. I don't like Vayne mid. I'm just gonna say it. I don't think the pick's that great.
Well, I mean, you guys beat Vayne jungle, so I think Rad just needs to play it in every role. I think that's.
No, I mean, yeah, like you know what? Let's just run it through every single role, and like we'll hit bullseye eventually.
Yeah, I think we're just waiting on support. I think Dave had it covered top lane earlier, and we've obviously seen it ADC. So whoever whiffs out the Vayne support, respect to me. But if you do it in team format and signups, you're getting like permaban. Just do it in a silly screen. But anyway, I mean, I will say that, and then eventually some like Korean or Chinese player is going to end up hitting like fucking Challenger on Vayne support for some reason with some item, and then I'll have to eat my words. But I don't know. I do want to take another look at the standings. Obviously, Metabusters and QC don't have an upcoming match. All the other teams except for Snarkify will have a match today. Within the next few hours, they're actually staggered starts, 8, 8:30, and 9. So if the Rift Strike series ends quickly, I might be able to stream the last game or two of one of the other ones. But we'll have to see. But at least at the standings, I think this is definitely not what people would expect. We have 5 teams in the bottom half and 4 teams with positive records. Rift Sharks is the only team with a positive record that isn't undefeated, which is kind of interesting. PT took that off of us. And the other 2 teams that are undefeated are actually the 2 teams that have had break weeks, or Metabusters did, but they've played a game ahead of it. So they're the only 2 teams with 2 games. And I think that does leave a lot to question. I would say Snarkify is looking to just keep winning games. I think it's going to be hard for a team to take them down. Whereas I think, as we've talked about before, I think some people are more mixed on Inferno. I think they're pretty good. I think I'd like to see them up against tougher teams. The biggest question mark for me against them is consistency. I think Albert and Omar have had a lot of standout games. We've seen them over the course of long seasons, though, have games that aren't as strong. And this season so far, we've seen Brian and Draco or Brian and Jeremy struggle in some games and perform super well in other games, and it's kind of a coin flip. So they might need to get that more consistent, or that might just be what you have to hope for versus Alberts, that they have a weaker game.
Yo, shout out to SKT for not being bottom.
Shout out SKT.
That's true.
Yes, sir. How are you feeling going into your series today, Pari, as SKT looks to double their win total?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling honestly pretty nice. I never go into any series thinking that I'm going to lose, even after 18 losses. I've never once went into a series thinking, yeah, I'm gonna lose. That ain't me. That ain't my style. I plan on getting in there and absolutely crushing everybody I come across.
I'm glad.
How are you feel about Fishy though?
Has like
we don't know the Rift Sharks roster, but how do you feel about Fishy potentially? I would say I think he's been looking like one of the best junglers in the server so far.
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely had some good games. I think I'll ban Lilia and then I'll just deal with what comes.
Leaked. Although I think most people saw that coming. I mean, don't know if that man's gonna get to play Lilia again.
If we'll ban Lilia, even if we're not running Fishy,
I'm sorry.
That's good to know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but saying you're gonna ban Lilia against Fish is like saying you're gonna ban Kane against Akari.
Then not everyone does it.
I guess not.
We're 50-50 on that this season.
And Lilia, then I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, if we are wanting to take a look at the 4 teams that are tied at 1 and 2, we have a 4-way tie for 5th at this point in the season, which is nuts.
Crazy.
Yeah. We have Metabusters, New York Nutbusters, Skaven Kill Team, and One Thief, and I think probably half those teams were expected to be kind of in this position, and half of them weren't. So I think that's a bit interesting. I think there's a couple teams we're expecting to see a little more out of, and I think the more matchups we get to see between these 4 teams, obviously definitely too early in the season to get to say much about it, but we could see the playoff race come down to these 4 teams. And if, as predicted, that QC is going to make a surge and try to come back for it, I think it's going to get really interesting down the stretch. New York Nutbusters has a tough match today. They're playing against the undefeated Alberts Inferno. So if they're able to get a win there, I think it really flips things on their head. But if the trajectory stays the same and Alberts is able to get the win, it puts them in a tough spot. And One Thief, you guys are kind of facing the opposite challenge where you're up against an undefeated team that you might be able to win against if you argue that your 2 losses were just you not showing up when you needed to. So I think that is going to be the series to watch for me. But if SKT is able to pull off the, like, I guess, quote unquote upset at this point, I don't even know where teams stand, that would put both teams at 2-2 and kind of even us out in the middle. So I think there's maybe less at hand there, but if SKT is able to kind of cripple Rift Sharks down to the middle of the roster, I think, or the middle of the standings, I think that makes things quite interesting. But my eyes are definitely going to be on Brewer and the rest of your team to see if you can get the upset against Project Tuesdays today.
One thing I will say, right, about, like, just that, and, like, I don't know, just, like, the standings and all of that, in my opinion, SKT is a different beast now, in my opinion. Like, I think, like, we've done the necessary preparations. Like, okay, my grand aspiration, right, the goal, the desire I have deep within my heart is that SKT makes it to grand finals. That's my aspiration. Actually, no. No, that's not right. I will lead SKT to glory in the grand finals.
I mean, I think that should be everyone's aspiration, man. I am excited, and I will say, I do think. So
Yeah,
first
my
week SKT,
aspiration is
let's
to lead
let's wipe that
SKT
off the
to
map
glory.
because that was not the roster you're going to play the rest of the season. Doesn't seem like. I thought you looked good. You should have won 2-0 against Alberts. Even then, you should have won 2-1. Those were like back-to-back craziest throws me and Dean had ever watched live. And then you look solid against QC. I do think SKT can look good, but to me, tonight is a big tell. If SKT comes out and continues to look like they've looked the past 2 weeks, whether it's a win or whether it's a 2-1, I'm going to believe in that team to go to playoffs and maybe do something. If you come into tonight's series and Rift Sharks gives a smacking, I'm going to have trouble because I still rate Rift Sharks really highly. Yes, they've lost a series, but it wasn't with their best roster, and Evan did not play like Evan should.
Say, I don't.
So I'm saying my opinion, Dean. It wasn't Rift Sharks' best roster, and Evan didn't play like Evan should play.
No,
I'm still rating Rift Sharks really high.
Like, I was saying, like, I'm going to get an earful of this on the podcast. Evan goes, it's all my fault. Tell the people on the podcast it's all my fault. So I personally wasn't going to say it, but now that you brought it up, I will say that was the internal feeling as well. But yeah, I mean, I think our drafts also were not great. But if we're playing the roster game where we're excluding SKT's first game because it's not a roster they're going to be running, if we are running the roster that we ran the first 2 series, you could say that SKT is coming in 1-1 and we're coming in 2-0, which I think would kind of negate the negation of SKT's first game. But I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. That is the first one that's going to be happening, so maybe some teams will get.
Do we want to do predictions?
A sneak peek.
Let's do
sure.
predictions,
I think Apari and I are each going to predict our own teams 2-0. So I think it's up for you
I'm
to
gonna
kind of break
it is what it
prediction.
I'm gonna give it to Rift Sharks. I am, but I'm gonna give it 2-1. I'm gonna give it a 2-1, and I think one of the games SKT is gonna get a big gold lead, and I'm challenging them to close it out. We'll see if they can, but I'm seeing 2-1 Rift Sharks there.
Damn, Brewer, you're gonna do this to me after I called you my goat? Come on, man.
I'm sorry.
All right, moving forward to the second game, which is going to be One Thief versus Project Tuesdays. I will make a bold prediction of One Thief 2-1 over Project Tuesdays. I'm not super confident about that, though. I think if you guys play like you did versus QC, I think it's completely over for PT, but that late game is a big question mark for y'all, and if you're able to close it out, I think that will help. I think the kind of weak early game top will, I think, eliminate some of the games you guys have dropped where it's just Jonah just gets exploited in top lane. But I think the rest of the map is going to be trouble. But I think 2-1 Thief, mainly because I think that makes things interesting. I don't know how confident I am in the pick, but I will let both of you predict that series as well.
Before Apari goes, I'll just say I'm excited to play against them. I like everybody on that roster, especially Dave and Spiral, obviously. Really like those guys. The other 3 have been so impressive so far. I like playing against the best, and right now they're looking like the best. So I'm excited to get a matchup against them. I'm going to predict my team. I always do. But this one, I'm feeling a 2-1. I think it's going to be a super close series.
For Project Tuesdays, I don't know. I think they look pretty strong. Like, as I said earlier, I don't think they really have any, like, gleaming, like, yeah, this is the weak side spots, right? But, I don't know. Kind of tough. I will say One Thief actually closes this one, to be honest.
I don't like that, guys. Somebody predict against me, please. But
yeah,
PT no, like I mean,
odds against them
me,
again. They're set up for success here.
Like I mean,
3-0
okay.
State of Scrims prediction is not good for One Thief.
It's like it's like okay, like I don't know, like matchups across both teams look a little. Honestly, pretty even, except for mid lane. Guru, my goat, gonna absolutely clear that lane out. But
thank you. I appreciate the confidence.
Many people have tried.
Yeah, and many people have failed to beat fucking Gruer, the Demon King, faker of Scrim Zone over here.
I think many people have also failed to beat LSD Dreams. The
LSD Dreams is looking pretty good.
I mean,
Yeah,
the guy is in
pretty
the
damn
hospital for
good.
back surgery
Yeah, but-
as we speak, and it does not matter. He's going to keep carrying the load, most likely.
But here's the thing. Like LSG Dreams, he's good. He is not facing the GOAT though. Let's be so for real.
Why are you setting me up like this?
Bro,
Spiral's going to be on my ass all game, and I'm just going to type juggle diff. So let's go ahead and get that out there. We'll see. We'll see.
So true.
Bro, you used to be my teammate. Of course, I'm gonna gas you up.
I appreciate it.
Okay, well, Guru used to be my teammate, and I think LSD Dreams has looked better this season. So
Yeah, well,
maybe
Dean,
I'm
you're
just
just
saying
an
this to kill the caster curse, but we'll
Valid.
have to see.
Valid.
But coming up on NYMB versus Albert's Inferno, I think that one could be interesting, but I think with how it's going so far, I would expect a 2-1 Albert's Inferno, but I feel like Canuck has looked great, but he hasn't passed the Blake test yet, and the Blake test, I don't actually think it matters how good of a top laner you are. It's just if you are able to expect the unexpected, I think that helps you a lot into Blake, but Blake has had miraculous performances against all sorts of top laners, so I think it's hard to be super confident in the series, but I think the rest of Albert's Inferno has been solid enough that I think they should be able to close out the series, but this is the one that I'm actually feeling should be the most contentious. I think, to be honest, I think One Thief is either going to show up or not, and I think that series is going to go pretty strongly one way or the other, but I think New York Nutbusters and Albert's Inferno is probably going to have the most back and forth between the series tonight.
Okay. What'd you said 2-1 out? Who'd you say 2-1 who?
2-1
Sorry?
Alberts. I think they'll start off.
Apari, what do you think?
So I mean, Albert, they have those people. NYNB has those people. Cross-reference. NYNB wins.
Well, considering that I have lost to both of these teams, I think my opinion
Has more
is pretty informed. And I'm saying with the most confidence I've made a prediction yet this season, 2-0 Albert's Inferno.
Okay. If you were saying that the other direction, I would have put a little doubt on that, but that makes sense.
I think this roster of Nutbusters has to have Blake succeed, and I think Canuck's up for the challenge, and I think Canuck's going to give it to him. And
I'm really excited for the top match. Yeah.
Okay, well, since both of y'all probably need to warm up, I am just going to rip through the brackets real quick, if I can get everything pulled up. And then after that, I think we will be free to go. Apari, if you want to dip for this, feel free. But
one thing I will say, though, I need y'all to keep doubting me. It actually
then I'm
fuels
predicting SKT.
Is it buffing
today.
you? It's buffing
me. No,
you?
it fuels me, bro.
Hey, I said Rift Sharks. Yeah, I'm changing it to Rift Sharks 2-0 then. If that's what you
2-0,
need,
okay.
I got you.
Okay.
Okay,
I
I'm
got
changing
you.
it to SKT.
No,
2-0.
And
I think
Fishy is
you're
gonna
crush
Fishy's
us.
gonna freaking Fishy up 3 levels on you.
3 levels, shit, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If that's what you need, I got you.
All right.
You're my
I'll show that mid laner up. That's the ego I like to see, Case. That's what I like.
Let's go game case.
Okay.
All right, good luck tonight, Apari.
Yep. As to you, Brewer. As to you, Dean. You're gonna
Thanks
need
for
it.
joining.
All fun and games. I love you, Dean.
All right.
Well, I'm be out here. So, peace.
Peace.
See you. All right. Well, let's rip through these. Let's do the co-host first. We are really getting down to it. There's only 4 matchups left in both the co-host and the host. And I will have the results live as we go through of the previous ones. There was some close voting here, but honestly, for the most part, I think this one was pretty favored. This first one came down to a tiebreaker, as in I had to beg in season discussion for more people to vote to break the tie. I figured that was the more efficient way to do it. I think Omar ended up being the decider, but Mason Drake shirt narrowly bumped out Mason Hawaiian shirt, which, you know, I feel like that's tough. Wumpification continues to go full speed. So that one has made it. That was a 10-5 over Pink Shirt. Sad to see the Pink Shirts lose. And then so those were Mason at the old house, and now we are at Mason at the current house. Mustache Era 10-5ing over Daytime SOS, which was surprising. I feel like people like the Daytime State of Scrims one, but Mustache Era has prevailed. And then moving over, another 10-5, Flashbang Mason has taken out Taco Bell Mason, which was another big contentious one, from my opinion. But Flashbang Mason, obviously pretty good. I expect that to go pretty far. It might be the best out of these four, but I am excited to see what other people think. I think there's a lot of good contenders that we've narrowed it down to. On the other side, we have our miscellaneous guests, and Beach Garrett beat Asleep Mason by 1. It actually was less close, and Omar pushed it back to being a little closer, but Beach Garrett has prevailed, and Hypno Honan continues to be a crowd favorite. I think it won with the largest margin, second largest margin in this round. Hypno Honan got 11 to Jacob getting 4. And Jacob is actually fully eliminated, also losing to Celtics Hoodie Noam. Closer margin, but love to see it. Big Celtics guy, as you can tell. So love to see that. Also, Noam, just standout guy. So glad to see him go. Unfortunately, he's probably going to get his ass wiped by Gruer and Eiffel, who received 13 votes, and Beer Gruer receiving 2. Honestly, nice. Beer Gruer was fun, but Gruer and Eiffel, I think, are a strong contender here. But there's a lot of good matchups over the course of this bracket, so I think it'll be kind of close. But anyway, moving over to the round 4 of my bracket. It's kind of turned into a half and half bracket when I wasn't really expecting it to, which is interesting. The Halloween Fizz beat Emo Dean 10-5, and this was another tiebreaker. Juice WRLD Sunburnt beat Timberwolves Tom Kench by 1, which is very close. Excited to see this one move on, I guess. Sad to see that Tom Kench versus Fizz doesn't get to happen. But we all know Tom Kench would probably win that 1v1. Moving on to the rest of the normal ones, there is a Daytime SOS that's still here, and it won 13-2. However, first episode Baby Dean won 12-3 over Dean with the Dig jersey, and I think Dig jersey was a bigger competitor than the Metro Boomin long sleeve with headphones on. It's kind of just a default one, and it was a really blurry picture. But moving on, we have 4 of me from the beach episode, because that's what everyone wants, clearly. Me Eating beat Ruler Jersey with Glasses 12-3. Go-Kart Dean beat Green Goblin by 13-2. Absolutely disgusting. Chef Dean beat Medium Hair 11-4. And Beach Dean versus Genji Pencil Tiger Jersey was the closest one, actually only being 9-6. But the beach episode Deans have moved on, and I think this is a very rowdy side of the bracket, I guess. Very unconventional, whereas these 4 are very typical. So I guess we'll get to see the best beach episode one versus the best normal State of Scrims one, which should be interesting. But moving on to the sandwich one, which I can actually stomach now because I just ate, so I'm going to be less grumbly the entire time. The Elvis was fantastic. Quite enjoyed it. I probably would put more bacon strips on it next time because the peanut butter and banana kind of drowned it out, but it was still very tasty. Would recommend cutting the bacon strip up into smaller slices just so you don't have to pull a bunch of the bacon. If you like it really chewy, which I do, if you get it crispier, you'll just be able to bite through it. But anyway, the sandwich bracket, I think, had some fun upsets. BLT beat out Ham and Cheese by 1 vote. Very close. Wow. Cheesesteak kind of annihilated the French dip 10-5. Sorry, Gruer. I know you were pulling for that one. Gotta love the cheesesteak. And I do think we have a disproportionate amount of Northeastern folks, which I think is helping us out. But moving on to the melty sandwiches, the classic grilled cheese annihilated the Italian panini 12-3. And the turkey melt kind of narrowly beat the avocado toast, but 9-6, so not super narrowly. And now we have cow versus cock. It is the classic cheeseburger versus the Nashville hot chicken. This name will make sense once we get to the end. But anyway, the cheeseburger annihilated the chili cheese dog 13-2, and Nashville hot chicken barely beat out pulled pork 9-6. But the next matchup was another one of the super close ones, the classic breakfast sandwich only winning by 1 vote over the chicken biscuit. So I know a lot of people will probably be disappointed about that. And chicken and waffles also by 1 vote beat the French toast sandwich, which I think means neither of these breakfast candidates are probably going to make it very far, especially because the winner of that is going to have to face either a cheeseburger or a hot chicken sandwich, which will be tough.
Yeah.
Moving on to street food, we have tacos versus shawarma. Shawarma 12-3 against the banh mi. Very sad, very crushing. I'm a big banh mi enjoyer. It was one of my favorites that was still left in, now eliminated. And not something that's very easy to make at home. So I probably won't be making that next week. A lot of pickling required. And tacos versus burritos was actually 10-5. I was expecting that to be a lot closer. I personally am a fan of the burritos, but I think really good tacos are also fantastic. But I think burritos are more consistent. Anyway, moving on to the variety category, quesadillas absolutely crushed Euros 10-5, and lobster roll annihilated po' boy 11-4. So I think both of these could be big contenders. I'm excited to see what wins out versus quesadilla and lobster roll. I think it's really going to come down to whether you like seafood or not, but we'll have to see. And then moving to the last two, it's s'mores versus the chocolate chip ice cream sandwich. S'mores beat PB&J 11-4, and the chocolate chip ice cream sandwich won 12-3 against Oreos. So that was kind of a shellacking. And we have the last one, fish versus balls, to go with cow versus cock. Obviously, it is the fish sandwich versus the meatball sub. Fish sandwich was pretty close against PB and honey, which I found kind of surprising, honestly. And meatball sub kind of annihilated the Hawaiian roll melt. So meatball sub probably is going to have a big pull. And I think we're down to a very solid set of 16 sandwiches. I am really going to have to make sure I eat right before I do this every time, or I'm going to be like drooling on cam. But I'm glad to have a lot more participants this time. I think when I start pinging people 5 times, they start doing more.
Yeah,
so
that seems to work.
Lesson learned. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm completely kidding. I'll try and be more conservative about it. But if you guys are bugging me for State of Scrims, just realize it takes me a lot of work. I guess it takes you guys a lot of work to make these memes, comparing me to someone who happens to own an island. Whatever. Anyway, if you could take all the effort to make the memes and make fun of me for not getting State of Scrims out in time, you can fill out my surveys and make me so happy. Every time I see 15 responses, it brings me so much joy. It's indescribable. Just as I'm sure you guys all feel watching this when I shout out your team and say you guys are the best ever. So Project Tuesdays, you guys are the best ever, because I know a bunch of you responded to the survey, and we scrimmed you guys earlier, and it was a great time. So shout out to everyone. I think these matchups are going to be an absolute banger tonight. It's a shame that we're probably not going to get them all live casted, but hey, day off tomorrow, so I'll try and delay cast anything that doesn't get casted live. And I know Korn said he's super willing to help out as well, so we should get these out pretty quickly. And we'll probably need podcast episode of its own just to go through that, but if we do that one super soon, I think we'll wait to do the next round of surveys, just because I think I want to give people more time to vote on those. But I don't know, I'm having a great time. If anyone has any ideas for, I think we'll try to squeeze in one more bracket this season. I think that could be fun. And I was rewatching all of the Scrim Zone pop quizzes earlier today, so maybe there's a spark of motivation to get another one of those edited. But I have realized they're like 4 seasons back, so they're like super out of date and making no sense to anybody. So maybe I'll shoot a new one, but I don't know.
I think we need a baked or based personally before too long.
I'd like to do those when the season's developed a little more. I feel like all the takes are going to be like, I don't know, less developed now, but we can do that. I don't know. I'll see. There's so much fun content that I could do, and I think my vacationing is done until like late April, except for a very short one at the beginning of March. So,
all right,
who knows? Should be exciting. But yeah, good luck to all the teams tonight. I know we have 6. I think something interesting to discuss as well is that Snarkify is taking another break week this week. I have on good source that their availability will be in on time more coming soon, so they should have to take fewer break weeks. But I think if there's a room for them to drop a game, having a doubleheader in a week where their opponent only has 1 series to prep for, I think could be the spot for that to happen, which I think makes things interesting. And it does mean that at some week for the rest of the season, 2 teams are going to have a break week, which I think always creates fun consequences, because sometimes people do not scrim when they have break weeks, and that can cause some problems in how warm they are going into the next week. And having a couple teams like that, I think, could really shake up the standings. But Metabusters looked great coming off their break week, so who knows? Maybe I don't know the hell I'm talking about. But good luck to you, Brewer, and good luck to anyone watching this who has a match tonight. And this should actually be uploaded somewhat on time. But I'll call it now, so you get your practice in. I know your team's a little mad at me. So.
Later.
See ya.
Wow.